Welcome back to Local, ladies and gentlemen. Today we have with us Noami Trooper. She wrote a book. We are very, very excited and honored to have her here today. This is Ben to my right, and this is Noami to your left or your right at the moment. Welcome, Noami. We are so excited to have you here.
Thank you. It's an honor to be a guest here on your podcast.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
She's nice.
She's very nice.
Yeah, usually people say they paid me $50 to be here.
Yeah, I didn't know about that.
You don't get paid.
Well, yeah, I know.
You paid $25.
I do. At least I get it cheap now. So.
But yeah, so you were ex-Amish as well, or you are ex-Amish as well.
Yes.
You grew up Schwarzenegger Amish, I believe.
Yes, and I left when I was 17.
Wow. I left
Yes,
when I was
26 years ago.
26 years ago.
Yeah.
So, what was the biggest thing that made you leave?
Well, I turned very rebellious as a teenager, and I would sneak out with the boys, the English boys, on Sunday nights sometimes. And one night I was going to sneak out, and my parents didn't go to bed in time when I had made the schedule to pick up, and my parents heard me when I had actually made a cherry pie for these English boys when I was going to meet them. And when I got the pie out of the pantry, I made a noise and my mom heard me, but I was already running up the road, and I was like, oh no, I'm going to get caught. And I did, but I threw the pie in the ditch and I went back, and my parents are like, were you running away? I said, no, I just couldn't sleep. I was going for a walk. They didn't believe me. But after that, that was the final straw. I was like, I don't want to sneak to have fun anymore. I want to go live my life. So a couple months after that, I ended up leaving because there's too much to sneak around all the time.
That's very interesting. Absolutely. So your 26 years of not being Amish, I mean, what has it been like?
Can you repeat that, please? Sorry.
After 26 years of not being Amish, has it been as much fun as you thought it would be?
Some of the times, absolutely. I've had a lot of rough patches throughout the years, especially in my 20s. I went through a really rough time when I got addicted to drugs, and I lost everything. I was a crackhead, actually, and I would sell myself to get money. And like I said, I lost everything, including my apartment where I was living, and I didn't have a place to be, so I would sleep wherever I could. And then eventually a guy took me to Vegas, and I was like, oh, life is okay. I just needed to get away from the people I was hanging out with. And then I ended up moving there, and that was really fun. I was dancing there, and then I started seeing the guys outside the club. And because I saw not all the other girls, some of the other girls were doing that, and it was so tempting. Vegas had so many temptations, and I'm probably going off topic here, but my life started to be fun again when I was there. And even though the guy I was with was abusive, he almost killed me. And after 6.5 years, I got away from that. But overall, my life has been a lot more happy, I would say, than it was not happy, even though I went through that.
So it was worth it at the end?
I think
so far.
Absolutely. Definitely worth it. I do miss the simplicity of the Amish, and the closeness of the family, and just how they're so supportive. And I don't know, my family was always very close for the most part, so I do miss that. But at the end of the day, I love my freedom, and I like to make my own choices. I don't like to be controlled, so it's definitely worth it.
Yeah, that's worth it. That's worth a lot, to have your freedom and to be able to do what you want when you want. And yeah, parents can be overbearing, but I feel like sometimes these strict Amish families they kind of go overboard with their strictness in the name of religion, but
100% agree.
So let's back up a little bit and talk about when you first left. You were 17 years old. You had to have somewhere to go, right?
Well, yes, I actually had.
Walk us kind of through that progression from you left at 17. Where did you go from there? You left your parents' house. Did you have a job, or what happened?
I had a guy that my dad had a sawmill, so these guys would bring logs, and I was picking strawberries one morning by myself, and the guy came to buy strawberries, and I was like, oh, here's my chance, because I always knew I wanted to leave, but I didn't know where I was going to go or what I was going to do when I left. And I just blurted it out. I was like, I want to live with you. I'm going to run away. And he's like, you're crazy. You can't do that. I was like, please help me. I really want to leave. And I was like, you can't tell my mom and dad. They'll be really mad at you and me. He's like, don't worry, I won't tell them, but I'll be back in a week to let you know. And a week later, he came back, and I was thankfully picking strawberries by myself again, because it was in July or end of June sometime. And he said I could stay with his mom if I helped take care of her. So a week after that, like, I didn't know when I was going to leave. It never seemed to be the right time. But eventually I was like, okay, today's the day. And I did. But so I stayed with his mom at first, and I was very bored because they wouldn't let me get a job. They said I needed to learn how to be English and enjoy my life, because I grew up my whole life, I just worked. So they said they would support me until I was 18.
Right.
And they did. And I was so bored staying at this lady's house, because she would be gone 3 days a week, and I was by myself. When I came from a big family and all I knew was work, work, work my whole life, suddenly I found myself alone day after day, and it was horrible. So eventually they remodeled their storage room in the back of their house where they lived, and I moved in there. And then the day after I turned 18, which was a Sunday, when I turned 18, I went, and the lady took me to get my driving permit. And we put in applications at McDonald's, Burger King, the grocery store, and I got hired at Burger King. So that was super exciting.
Yeah.
I had some newfound freedom. I could drive, and I had a job.
Yeah.
And I had actually, so my birthday is in May, but in January that year, I met a guy. I was in Ohio, and I met a guy, and we were dating. So in August after that, we moved to Minnesota.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know, I was working at a factory and then IBM. And eventually, when that guy broke up with me, I started dancing. And I don't know, my life just changed after that.
You don't
That
know
was
why?
in 2000. What's
you know,
that?
You know why you started dancing? Was it you needed
Oh,
the money, or was you just bored, like you said, or?
no, I was so worried because I had never been on my own after I left, and now I was in a different state. This guy took me to a different state, and he leaves me.
Away
And
from
I was terrified, because I was like, how am I going to support myself? And I moved into another apartment actually across the street, and I called my girlfriend a lot to talk to her. And she's like, oh, there are lots of ways to make money. I was like, what? And she's like, oh, be a dancer. And she told me she used to be a stripper, and I was like, what? Like, I was speechless, couldn't believe it. So she was like, let's go out on Friday. You need to just relax and get away. And I was 19. And I was like, where are we going? She's like, we're just going out, have a beer. And we're driving and we're driving. And I'm like, where are we going? She's like, it's a surprise. And then she pulls into the strip club. And I was like, why would she do that? Like, why would you bring me to a place like this? I was like, I grew up to think that those dancers were bad people,
Yeah.
like sluts and just horrible people. So she's like, oh, come on, let's just go in. You'll have fun. Like, you can just watch them dance. You don't have to do anything. And we walk in, and this naked girl on stage is looking at me. And I'm like, why is she looking at me? Like, I was like, what's going on? But I tried to relax. And before I knew it, the manager came by, and he was like, I hear you need a job. And I was like, oh, no, I could never do this. Like, there's no way.
Right.
And he's like, well, follow me. Let's go to my office and talk. And he talked to me a little bit. And I was like, I'm not ready for this. And I went back to the bar, and then 3 dancers come up, and they were talking to me. And before I knew it, they grabbed me and dragged me into the dressing room, and they like undressed my clothes, my shirt and my skirt. And they all agreed on a hot pink bikini, and they put it on me, and they pushed me on stage. And I was terrified, but I made the most of it. And at the end, I had $55, and was like, wow, that was actually kind of fun. I was like, I think I could do this. And I went back the next night and I danced for over 20 years. Like,
Wow.
I loved it. It gave me so much freedom and fun and just something when I would step on stage. Like, I really miss dancing on stage actually because I love doing pole tricks. It's so freeing and like freedom of expression. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
that was really fun.
Wow.
20 years. That's longer than most people stay at a career.
Yeah, for sure. For
Wow.
sure. That's
I mean, I had some breaks a couple times for a little bit, but not for very long. I always went back because I loved it, the freedom that it gave me. So it was amazing.
well, good. I'm glad it worked out. Some people have some pretty bad stories at the end of their dancing careers like that, you know. So I'm glad it worked out, and luckily you were able to kind of escape it in one piece, if you will, you know.
Yeah, and yeah. I actually got followed at gunpoint one time, home and robbed at gunpoint after I left the club when I lived in Vegas.
I believe
So
it. There's some super weirdos out there. I mean, that's probably the worst part of the job to deal with is some of these guys that go in there, these Johns, you know. I mean, especially with the other stuff you were doing, that's really scary. Like that's really brave of you to like do some of this stuff. That's kind of crazy.
I know, looking back now, especially now that I have a daughter, I'm like, how did I do that? Like, I was super brave. I didn't feel brave all the time. It was really hard sometimes and very scary. And I
Yeah.
was worried for my safety a couple times, but I always thankfully managed to get away unharmed.
Yeah.
But there were definitely a couple situations where I was like, I probably shouldn't have done that, and I never saw those guys again.
Yeah.
So,
So,
Absolutely.
'cause
did your parents know the entire time you were dancing, and if so, how did they react?
I don't know if my parents knew. I think it would be naive to think that they didn't know because the Amish know everything. And I know one of my cousins, she danced for a little while, and all the Amish people knew about it. And they were so happy to tell me when I came to visit next time. So I feel like it would be very naive to think that they didn't know, but we've never ever talked about it. When I first started dancing, when lived in Michigan, well, I was danced in Minnesota first, and then I moved back to Michigan and continued to dance there. I told some of my brothers and sisters, and they always like kind of made fun of me. So I stopped telling them that I was a dancer. I just told them I worked at a restaurant or I was a bartender because I
Right.
didn't want to
That's the
deal with it.
easy answer, right? For sure. So your parents, so you were able to keep in contact with your parents after you had ran away. They
I didn't. Go ahead. Sorry.
how long did it take for you to start talking with them again? Did they try to look for you? Like how did that all play out? Because their
Oh
daughter
yeah.
went missing with some stranger in a truck. What was their end of the stick?
Well, I had left them a note on the dresser that I was leaving, that I didn't want to be Amish, but they didn't believe me. They didn't believe the note. And because my sister, there's a long story, and the story's in the book about how my sister and I, we were both going to run away. And then I decided I was going to leave before her so I didn't have to feel guilty if my mom only had one daughter, the big girl, to work with her. But the night when I ran away, oh, it was so messed up. But she heard me get my belongings that I was going to take with me. And she was standing in the doorway when I came down from the attic. And she's like, "You're running away." And I was like, "No, I just couldn't sleep. I was getting something to read." And she didn't believe me. So she saw the guy's truck up in the corner at the road. So anyway, mom and dad kept calling these people's house. And they're like, "We know you have her." And these people kept denying it and denying it. And my dad's like, "Fine, you kidnapped her. I'm calling the cops." And my dad called the cops. And these people were like, "Okay, this is where she's at." And they told my dad where I was, and the cops had to go over there where I was and see that I had food and clothes to wear and that I was safe. And they made me write a letter to my mom and dad to give them the address. And they also went and reported to my parents that I was okay and where I was. And man, like 3 times I came home and there were buggy tracks there. So it was pretty far. but they came looking for me, but thankfully I was never there. And then, so I left in July and I didn't go back to visit them. I think it was January the next year. And the only reason I went back then is because my sister left for a little bit and she's like, you have to go see them. I was like, I can't, I don't want to. I want to, but I'm scared. Like, I don't know. It was hard for me to go back to see them, but she made me go, and I'm really grateful that I did.
Right.
Because
Now you said thankfully you weren't there when they were there looking for you. What do you think would have happened if you were there and they were there in the buggy?
I feel like I don't know that I would have been strong enough to say no to them, and that they would have coerced me and talked me into coming home with them.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes
So
sense.
that's why I never wanted to be there when they came, because I didn't want to go through that.
Because you still loved, it was just the way of life you didn't really enjoy, right? You still loved your parents, right?
Oh, yes. Love my parents. Still love my parents. I actually have a better relationship, I feel like, with my mom than I did when I was there. I just didn't like the way of life. Like all the rules and the controlling of everything.
And their thing was just to kind of keep you there, but you didn't want to be there. So I bet you that happens a lot.
Oh yeah.
You know, I bet you that's an actual thing in Amish families, isn't it? Where you get to an age and it's like everybody starts talking if you're going to stay or leave or what the deal is, huh?
Yeah, but like they don't ever want you to leave. It's crazy, but like even more so now than ever, a lot of them are leaving now.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I'm 24 years old, and I'd say 95% of the guys I hung out with from 14 until I was 18, I have left. Or no.
wow.
Yeah. So I have a lot of friends no longer Amish.
Yeah.
Like I even have 3 nephews and a niece that left now. So there was a period of hard times where my family, like, they would let me come visit, but it was really hard. And then eventually, like, it got different because they started accepting me more. And there was a period where I even would stay the night at their house again. And then when the grandkids started getting older, they're like, okay, you can't sleep here anymore because we don't want you to be a bad influence on the grandkids. We don't want them to think that it's okay for you just to come here and be English for a couple days and then you get to leave again. But you know what? Lo and behold, I don't believe that it was my fault that they ran away. They still ran away, even though I didn't stay the night there. Like it's not because of me. It's because they're not happy with the life they had there.
Sure. Right. I get that. Yeah, absolutely.
It's a tough lifestyle. I mean, especially with, I mean, the vehicles are getting nicer. Homes get nicer.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. There's all these things going on, and it's like, look, I mean, it's hard. It's still a hard life because, like you said, there's simplicity behind the Amish life. You know what I mean? You might not have a car payment or insurance on that car, or you don't have a light bill, phone bill, all these different things that suck money from us every day. You don't have that as an Amish person, so it's a little bit simpler, but it's also a little harder because anything you want, you've got to then make, or it has to be allowed, or whatever.
I mean, you have to check the brim of your hat,
Yeah.
the width of the band that runs around the hat.
Yeah.
Yep, that's good.
I don't understand. That's just crazy.
Yep.
That's crazy to me sometimes.
That's how their forefathers did it, so it's good enough for us.
I mean, yeah, but some traditions are just, they used to be there for reasons, and they're not reasons anymore, so I feel like you should be able to throw some of those aside and evolve, but then at what point do you just become Christian versus Amish?
I think that's the part that they're starting to figure out right now, because a lot of the churches are allowing more things and are getting easier to deal with. But I think they're still struggling to see, like you were saying, where are you Christian and where are you Amish? Like, what's the difference here? Or
Right.
English and Amish.
English and Amish, yeah. So I don't know. I'm not from the Amish, so I'm just speculating and looking from outside. You guys are the experts on that whole. I mean,
I wasn't Amish long enough to be an expert on it.
No.
Me neither.
I went to an Amish church service twice after the age of 14, up until I was like 21. So I wasn't really involved in it at all. Eli Yoder, which you'll get to do an interview with him as well.
Sure, yeah. Yep. Yeah, we had Eli Yoder on here. He did. He had him on here.
So I mean, guys like that they're the ones that are actually still talking to the people that are still Amish.
Yeah.
I have you guys around here, and I don't really talk to a lot of Amish kids or Amish people. It's a lot of fun. I enjoy it. There's a lot of fun, and you can do stuff you never thought you could ever do in your life. You get to do a lot of amazing things. Yeah.
So you were born into Amish, and you were Amish up until you were 17. So you had quite a bit of Amish experience then. Like
Till I was 17. Sometimes I wish I would have had more experience. Like I wish I would have. I learned how to sew a little bit, like diapers and handkerchiefs and stuff, and I made Amish dress like twice. But I really, really wish I would have been able to learn those skills because I didn't. Only because my mom had. There were two older girls right ahead of me, so it was easier for mom to have them do the sewing and I would wash the dishes or do the gardening or something like that. But I wish I would have learned those skills, but it is what it is.
That could have been a perfect side business. You could have made all the girls' outfits and everything, you know?
I know. I'm like, I could be making Amish dresses and selling them or something. It's okay.
2 weekends ago, I learned how to butcher.
Really?
Yep, it's so much fun.
Yeah.
It's awesome. I miss doing that, actually.
1 beef and 2 hogs.
You did yourself? Or
No, me and my brother and some other people did.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Do you miss some of the food, the home cooked food?
Oh, I miss all the food. That's one of the things I also miss most is the food. Like it drives me crazy how there's all these preservatives and chemicals in our food that we buy from the grocery store. Like it's awful.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize like the canned food, like canned green beans, like there's plastic liners inside all the cans. I mean, I don't eat a lot of that stuff. I canned some green beans last year and I try to do fresh vegetables, but I don't know. It doesn't make me happy when I think about how the things that they put in the food for the English. It's pretty horrible.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. We try not to think about it.
I try not to, and I try to be very careful because it kind of makes me mad sometimes because it's horrible.
We go to McDonald's and eat it real quick so that we don't think about how bad it is for us.
There you go.
We get into we do a lot of canning. We do green beans and strawberries and all kinds of stuff. We make jelly and all kinds of stuff at home still. So we try to keep it healthy like that. We buy beef. We get together with the family and we go and we buy a cow from a farmer. I think an in-law grows beef, so we buy one off of him. And so we always try to source stuff as much as we can locally and from as natural as possible. But you still gotta have sometimes you gotta have chips and soda for parties and stuff.
Oh yeah, sometimes.
You gotta have sugar. I gotta have sugar in my coffee.
I need chocolate chips.
Chocolate chips, all that.
See, there you go. Exactly. I need my chocolate sometimes too. So and a few other things because just the necessary evils sometimes.
You gotta be good with bad. You can't have good without bad.
Exactly. It's all about balance.
Balance.
So last podcast we were talking about me quitting smoking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so 1 cigarette there.
1 cigarette today.
You know what? They're $10.50 a pack.
Oh,
I'm trying to take the moral high ground here, but
they were only $8.25 when I was doing it. So.
That was what, a year ago? 2 years ago?
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, I switched to these little vapes here. It helps a lot.
You do vaping.
Yeah, I'm ashamed of it, but I try.
You hide it. You go for this.
Sometimes I try to hide it. Yeah, but it is what it is. We've all got our vices and all of our stuff. We just try to do the best we can. I'm just using the lesser of two evils in my mind. Supposed
Absolutely.
To be. So.
I think this shirt looks pretty nifty. I was looking at it in the camera.
Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah, I make shirts. That's what I do.
Very nice.
So I make custom shirts for people. And I might as well plug it now.
Absolutely.
Everybody already knows it's Blue Dog Loco on Instagram. Hit us up, check us out.
And then every episode I wear a shirt that he made, and then I brag about it.
Yep, I made this one. That's
nice.
This is another brand I work with. It's the Boston Harbor Tea Company. Also, Boston Harbor Tea Company at Instagram.
The hat. I was looking at the hat in the camera. It looks nice.
Wow. Very nice.
If we'd have thought about it, we'd have had your book here.
Yes.
Sitting on the table. If we'd have had a copy of it, we'll try to find one. Let's talk about your book.
Oh yeah, put the book. You probably have the book with you, right?
I have a book.
Yes, perfect.
Absolutely.
What inspired you to write this book, and what gave you the motivation to write a book?
Because I looked, it's 278 pages, right?
It's 236, I think.
Okay, okay. Because when I was on Kindle, it said, which that's probably a different version in the paperback.
Yeah, it's like 226, and then it has, with the extra pages, I believe it's 236 pages. So what inspired me to write the book? Well, when I talk to English people or just people sometimes, and I would tell them that I was Amish, and then if they found out I was a dancer, even when I just told them I was Amish, they're like, you need to write a book. So people often told me I need to write a book. And I can't tell you how many times I even started writing in a writing tablet. And then I would just get stuck. Didn't know where to go, what to write, or to move forward. And I don't remember what year. It was after I moved to Vegas, like 2005, I want to say, 2005, 2006. I met this couple at the strip club, actually. And they have written and published more than 8, I think 9 or 10 by now. Back then they had 7, but I know they've both done some themselves since then, at least 2. So the guy, he was like, I will help you. I will teach you how to do it. So he helped me outline it. And so that was the first step. And then after that, I started putting a couple words, and eventually I was like, I'm ready to write. And he was like, that's fine. Just start writing. So after that, I started writing. It took me actually from 2011 until last year when I published it. But when I went to get an editor in 2020, I had, what was it, over 500 pages and over 300,000 words. And I was like, I think I need an editor. Like, I talked to the guy and he's like, you can do this by yourself. He's like, just keep writing. I'm like, I'm done writing for now. Like, I need to move to the next step. Like, there has to be other steps. And he's like, you can edit. And I tried, and I was like, there's no way. Like, there is absolutely no way I can edit my own writing, because I didn't even have everything put in paragraphs at that time all the way. Like, I had some paragraphs, but he's like, when I started writing, he's like, just write. Don't worry about punctuation. Just get it out. So it was quite the process, and the editing and getting it into a nice book took from 2020 until 2023. But I'm really grateful for Molly. She goes by Maeve Egan now, and the trauma-enforced, what is it? Let me think about this. Trauma-enforcedwriter.com.
Yeah.
If anyone's interested in or wants to get their voice heard, she's amazing. And she was really nice and easy to work with. But I'm grateful for her because she really doctored up my writing, and she wrote some of the sex scenes, and it just came together nicely after I worked with her.
Awesome. Well, that's good. I was wondering how long it took and how much help you would need to do something like that, you know. So it's good you had some people that were willing to definitely help you out and hook you up with some knowledge, because that's the biggest help, you know what I mean? So
Amazing. Yes, like unbelievable.
it's awesome. You had to have some good people on your side to make it through that and to get this thing done. And so that's really good. You kind of ran into the right people when you needed them to. So that's awesome.
That's phenomenal.
Absolutely. I'm so grateful for them, for the couple, and for my editor. And then I had a couple other people, like 3 other people I worked with as well. Like, I had a cover, actually 4 other people. I had a cover design lady that she had like hearing problems, so we could only communicate via email. And it was really hard, but she had some things happen in her family. So she ended up backing out, and we got this other lady, and man, she whipped out this cover in like 2 hours. I was like, what? I was like, this is perfect. This is great. Let's do it. We just changed around the color a little bit, but definitely having good people, and it takes a team to do it for sure. Because it's a lot.
It turned out amazing. I read all of it when I first messaged you about coming on the podcast. I had just gotten done reading it, so
I remember that.
You need to check it out, man.
I will check it out. We'll have to get a copy. We can have it on the table, and
when we sit with her, we'll have one sitting right here.
Sure. When you write your second one,
Sugar Ray here.
See, when we do another one, exactly.
What is it called here?
The Amazing Adventures of an Amish Stripper.
By Noami Trooper.
All right.
You can buy it on Amazon. I'm looking into the audio. People want an audio book.
Audio version.
So
Yeah, that would be really cool. You need to get that done so people can buy that. And
I
make sure
think that
you put a thick accent on it.
Make sure that it sounds like your voice. That makes it so much more entertaining.
that's what they're actually requesting, is that I do it. And I'm like, oh, I didn't think about that. But I need to get back to the guy. We had a family. There was an accident in my family, my nephew. So
A similar situation with my grandmother, and she was on life support, and she wasn't there. You know what I mean? So we had to make a decision, and we had to pull the plug, and it was unfortunate. So, but that was quite a few moons ago. So it's not as soft or tender as it was once, but it's a pretty tough thing to deal with. And that was just my grandma. I couldn't imagine like my son or my kid or my nephew. Like, yeah, it's really tough to deal with for sure.
yeah. So that's the hard part, but we're getting through it.
You just got to be there for her in any way you can. Just be a shoulder, be an ear.
Be their driver.
Exactly.
Yeah. And, so aside from your book and stuff, do you mind asking what do you do now? Do you do what's your main thing now that you're doing?
I'm a content creator. I do social media like TikTok and Instagram, and I'm Amish inspiration on both of them. And that's what I work a couple hours a day. And then I'm a stay-at-home mom. I live on 4 acres, and we have chickens and a garden. It's in Arizona, so it's nice in the winter. But I am really enjoying my life. Like finally, I feel like the peace and the happiness I went searching for when I left the Amish. Because my significant other, he's amazing and supportive. He was not Amish. He's very supportive of me. And I don't know, when I met him, like everything changed. Like I could be myself around him. I was finally honest with him when I met him about my past, and everything was different. And now we have a daughter, and he's amazing. And I don't know, it's great. I love my life. We go camping, and we love to travel. So
awesome. Well, that's good. That's excellent to hear.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What got you into content creating?
He's really into social media. He's an engineer, and he has all kinds of crazy vehicles that he's built. Right now he's building a 106-year-old Moreland into a camber. It's crazy, but he's really good at social media, and he's like, this could be something that you can do. And he taught me, and I have 175 or 176,000 followers on TikTok and over 18,000 on Instagram.
Awesome.
So
that's amazing.
It was he helped me build my brand, or he would recommend things. And now, he's like, now you're better than me. I'm like, I don't know about that, because he has almost 500,000 followers on TikTok. But
wow,
it's crazy.
Yeah.
If any of you guys want to follow us,
yeah, they can follow.
No, I'll totally follow you guys. Where are you? I think I follow you on Instagram, Jacob, but I don't know about
the local podcast across all social medias.
The local podcast. Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have to learn. You'll have to teach us all of her.
Yeah, you have to teach us the tricks. Yeah, teach us the tricks. I followed you on Instagram here today, so
Nice.
So I followed you on both of those. So 178,001 then.
It's all about building your brand. Like I talk about the Amish stuff, like the things that I did when I was Amish, and not always, but sometimes I try to pick stories from my book and do a little short stories like that, but it's always about Amish. Okay. And people love that stuff. So, but I don't ever try to put them in a negative light, because I respect them, and I think that it's amazing that they have their way of life.
Right.
But I always try to keep them in a positive light. I know there's some negative things that some of them go through, but everybody does that sometimes. So
absolutely.
Shoot. A lot of people do that.
I just try to educate people, because the Amish, at the end of the day, they're just people like the rest of us. They're just living a different life.
Yeah. If whenever you go back to the Amish community, it feels like you're going to a different country or to a different world almost. They actually sit down and talk the Amish politics with them. It's wild.
Oh yeah,
It's interesting.
it's interesting.
It's dramatic as all get out. It's I go out to my mom and dad and I get all of the tea. There's none that I don't get. I know who's in the phone. I be learning all kinds of stuff.
Who's in the what?
In the phone.
I don't know what that is, man.
Like disciplinary, right? Explain it to them.
What is it? What did you say?
I find out when people are in the bond from my
Oh,
dad.
the bond. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness. So when you're in the bond, you want to explain it to him? Or you want me to?
Yeah, yes, please.
So when you're in the bond, that means you're shunned. You did something that the elders don't approve of. So you'll be in the bond for sometimes 4 weeks, sometimes 5 or 6, depending on what you did. If it's something really bad that they think is really bad, then it can be longer. Like I was never baptized, so I can't get shunned. You have to be baptized to get shunned.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's interesting, like the things that they get shunned for. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's crazy when they go in the bond. I'm like, I don't know. I just remember seeing people hang their heads when they walk out and they had to go home when they got put in the bond.
Yep. They couldn't eat lunch with everybody else. They had to go home early.
Oh my
At
gosh.
church? Oh yeah. I didn't know if they had to, but they always went home early.
Oh no, they have to. They can't eat with when you get put in the bond. You can't eat with anyone else at the same table that is a member, like baptized. You also cannot ride in the same buggy as another member while you're in the bond. Like you cannot like you're like outcasts for that time. Like you cannot
You sit
really.
over here.
Yeah.
It's not that crazy because the English do the same thing.
Yeah, they just don't like
We just don't call it that. We just say, hey, get out of our fucking truck. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want you in here. That's it.
Or we quit picking up the phone. You know how simple it is now to no longer be friends with somebody?
Oh, yeah.
You just don't pick up the phone.
That's it.
It used to be way harder. You used to have to like avoid them. You had to switch like a church where you ate breakfast at.
Yeah.
I just quit picking up the phone.
You just stop answering their texts. Most of them don't call anyway.
What is up with people not picking up their phone when you call them?
I don't know.
I swear it should be illegal to smack them. Just
You know, right?
oh,
No, I don't know. You can also block them if you don't want.
Yeah.
As long as they don't know where you live, you're usually generally safe when you just block them.
but
They don't want to talk to me.
Anybody would say anymore.
Right.
You ever think about that? Like I don't know where you live at. You don't know where I live at. I barely know where Jose lives at.
It's just not that, like, really not that important.
Yeah.
In the big scheme of things, like, I think it's important to have your privacy, and there's a lot of people out there that you don't want to know where you live anyway. Like, I mean,
Exactly.
for instance, like with your social media, you've got all these followers. How many of those followers know you from your past? Has any of them said, "Hey, I saw you dancing in Vegas in 2000 and whatever," Or
I haven't gotten that yet, surprisingly, because one of my videos has over almost 23 million views.
wow.
Oh wow.
But I don't know. I don't even really check the messages on there. It's like too much. It's overwhelming for me even to go through those messages because there's just so many. But like once in a while I get like I haven't had it happen with guys. There's one creeper guy from California that's on my Instagram, but I don't block him just because I don't want him to turn weird and crazy. I just ignore him most of the time. But like a lot of like yeah, a lot of women that I used to dance with actually reach out to me on TikTok and Instagram. I think that's pretty awesome.
Yeah,
I'm like, wow.
They're pretty proud of you. I bet you they're pretty proud of where you're at now.
They are. They say that, and they say that they comment. I'm so proud of you, and I'm like, oh, that's so nice.
That's great.
I went through a lot, and then I don't know. Somehow I ended up here, but I always remind myself that I wouldn't be who I am if I didn't go through all those things I went through, and as hard as they were, they made me strong, and I am here and who I am because of the things I went through.
Mm-hmm.
So,
because that's what makes you who you are is the things that you go through, the experience that you have. So you might not be who you are today if you didn't go through these terrible things or some of these awesome things. You know what I mean?
Exactly, 100% agree. Yes.
So let's just say if there was a 17-year-old Amish girl somehow watching this episode and she found herself in a position like you, what would your advice be to her?
I would, hopefully I don't get in trouble for saying this. I would recommend that they become dancers because you can make good money to go to college. And I definitely recommend going to college or something that you can do something that you're passionate about. Find your passion and do that if you can figure that out. But dancing, I don't know, it was great. I really enjoyed it. I wanted to be an accountant, but when I got into drugs, that didn't work out. And then I just didn't want to go back and go through all that college stuff. But definitely find your passion and just go for it.
Mhm.
So, and be careful out there. There's lots of crazy guys out there. There's crazy girls out there too. But
Yes.
just protect yourself and as best as you can if you do decide to dance. Like I was very gullible and vulnerable when I was a dancer. I believed everything and everyone when I first started dancing, and I had to learn the hard way sometimes. Like these people are just trying to get one thing and don't really care about you. So
Right. They paid for it, so they own it, you know, so that's what their mindset is, which is not the case.
right,
But
right.
I'm willing to bet there were some dancers that were every bit as dangerous as any guy that walked through the door, though, as well, too.
100%. That's why I'm saying, like, there's absolutely there were some dancers. Oh, believe me. Yeah, yeah.
You wouldn't want to mess with them.
I wouldn't want to mess with them exactly. I
Yes.
danced in California for a little bit too when I lived there, and I worked at a club called Star Garden. And my ex there, he was in all the strip clubs, and it was weird because he wouldn't let me work at the good ones because he wanted to go there. So the boyfriends aren't allowed to go to the strip clubs. But the night a dancer broke a beer bottle over a customer's head and the glass hit me, I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm not coming back here. Like I was like, that's it. Like, no, thank you.
If I did.
He probably deserved it. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what he did, but I didn't stick around to find out because like the glass hit me. I was like, I'm out. I'm leaving.
No, time to go home.
good.
Been good knowing you guys. We'll see you.
Right. I was like, I'm not making money anyway. I only make like $60, $70 a night there. It was
That's not.
crazy. It wasn't
That's not worth
not
it.
worth it. No, it wasn't worth it. Definitely not worth it.
How much? What was the most money you made in a night dancing?
3,300.
3,300.
Yes.
Wow.
How much are the tickets to Vegas? The flights.
I know, right? That was the most, and then I had some 2,000 and not dollar nights around 2,000, and I had quite a few around $1,000 or a little bit more. But the average most of the time was like it depended. Like I would say 500 a night, 3 to 500 was a average.
That's a good night still. Yeah.
Yeah, 3 to 500 is still. But some nights were harder, and you didn't make that much. But most of the time, you could make good money.
Mm-hmm.
How many nights a week were you dancing?
Around 4 or 5 usually. Most of the time only 4 because I don't know, it was overwhelming and a lot to do it all to do it more than 4 nights a week. Sometimes when I wanted to buy a house in Vegas, I started working more like 5 days a week.
Okay.
And I most of the time I work during the day instead of at night because I'm not a night person. So I most of the time danced in the afternoons. When I lived in Vegas, I did some nights, but most of the time was afternoons.
I imagine in Vegas you could find them open 24/7 and like it's packed all the time. You know, like here a day shift at a dance club is probably pretty light as far as like people go. But in Vegas, everybody's on vacation. I can see how it'd be good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, Arizona is. I found that I make more money in Arizona than I did in Vegas.
Really?
And girls are actually coming from Vegas to Arizona to dance now.
Wow.
Because Vegas is not like it used to be. I mean, it's still good, I guess, but not like, man, like I came at the tail end when it was amazing. Like It used to be even better before I was there, I guess. But I mean, I still did fine. I bought a house in 2010 and I sold it in 2018, which is why I was able to be a stay-at-home mom. And when I got pregnant with my daughter, I haven't danced since. I danced a little bit, a couple days in for like not a couple days, actually a little over a month in 2020. And then the pandemic happened, and then I got pregnant, and I never went to dance after that.
Okay.
So would you say that you're retired from dancing at this point then? Is there any thoughts of going back, or are you set with what you're doing? I mean, I would imagine you're set with what you're doing.
Well, it's interesting actually. I was coming to a crossroads where I had to go either get a regular job or go back to dancing. And both of those sounded, I mean, if I was going to have to go back to work outside the house, I would have chose to be a dancer. And the club where I work, they have girls that are in almost 60. So they're very supportive of girls of whatever age. And we all make money there. We all made lots of money at that club, and they still do. So for now, as long as TikTok doesn't get shut down, I'm okay without going back to the strip club. But if that ever got shut down or I wasn't successful on there, then I would definitely probably go back to dancing.
Mm-hmm.
For now, I like to think I'm retired, but that could change because you never know what could happen.
Right. That's for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
How much more time we got? We almost at time?
We are at 49 minutes.
49 minutes.
So we got 10 to go.
10 to go? Okay,
Yep.
so we got to cut some out.
So I have a, like, like normal, I plan something that butts up tight against everything.
Okay.
Which is very normal.
We're very normal. Yeah,
but we're going to do this again.
Yeah, we'll do this again for sure.
Either we fly out to Arizona or she flies to Ohio. And we do like in person. I want to go see her significant other's crazy vehicles.
Yeah, that would be.
I need to send you the YouTube video that they were in.
Yes.
Yes.
Homestead.
Yes, you need to send me that so I can check it out. Do you want to plug his TikTok and stuff in?
Yes. Startup Slick. Is it Startup Slick? I think it's Startup Slick. Yes, Startup Slick.
Okay.
So
okay.
He used to be something else on Instagram and TikTok. Startup Slick. He has this truck called the Dragon Wagon. It's a military truck with a camber on it, and it's amazing. And he has all kinds of other trucks and vehicles too. So the most exciting thing right now is he's building this Moreland. It's a 1918 Moreland, and he put a Cummins and a 12-valve Cummins in it, and I forget what transmission, and he put like these airbags and things on it right now. You have to see it. Like it's amazing. And then it's gonna look like, I don't, maybe I shouldn't say it. I won't. I don't want to like give it away. But he still hasn't built it yet. So people are like anxiously waiting to see what it's gonna look like when it has the camper and stuff on the back. Which he's gonna all built from scratch.
That's phenomenal.
Excellent.
I'm excited to see that. Yeah. Well, we're not building anything cool at the moment.
No, we just make shirts and videos.
Yeah. I saw
awesome. Sell trailers. That's awesome.
That sounds a lot of fun. We definitely need to. I love to see the homestead.
So you guys
are welcome to come here.
So
What's that?
You guys have a homestead that you built there then? Is that what he's talking about?
I mean, pretty much, yeah. We bought 2 acres, and there was just the thing to hook up water. There was no septic or electricity or anything. So first we built a compound. We put like these R panels and steel posts in the ground so he could move all his vehicles here, because I was pregnant. It was 2020, and the people where we were renting from sold the house because, I don't know, and they moved to Alaska. So we had to find something, but rent was crazy, and he has a truck problem, so we needed somewhere to put all his trucks. I love his truck problem. It's great. So we built the compound, and then we put a septic, electricity. We bought a trailer and moved it on here, and then we bought the 2 acres next to it, and there's a trailer on that already.
Okay.
So
awesome.
we have the garden, the chickens, and he has lots of RVs and all kinds of things. It'd be great to have you out.
That sounds phenomenal. So follow the local podcast at the local podcast. Pretty simple. And we are going to see you guys next week. See ya.
Yeah.
Hang on one second.